Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment and we'll take Mr. Gustavus.
Thank you, Mayor. I do want to mention that we got a lot of email. I really appreciate everybody that took the time to do that. I also want to mention that email was probably about 90% in favor of keeping the resolution and maybe less than 10% the other way. I have them all here if anybody would like to take a look at them. But so when we're talking about the way people in Mesquite feel about it, I think we know how they feel about it. There's always a group of people who are not going to agree with anything. We know that. I think one of the problems, and I heard it from 2 or 3 of you, and I've written down a lot of things here, but I heard it from 2 or 3 people, is that either this is going to happen or that's going to happen, or we're not going to be able to do this. It's pretty obvious that none of them have read the resolution, because the resolution is pretty darn clear on what Mesquite would anticipate that we would like to see this look like. And Mr. Councilman Hafen and Judge Dodd, I think, is sitting in the back, helped craft that. And at the time, it seemed fine. They could live with it. I guess they can't live with it now. I don't know about Mr. Dodd. I haven't heard from him. But anyway, what I would like to do, and I've asked our city clerk to take a minute and actually read the resolution so we all really know what we're talking about and not just all of the things that are being thrown out to try to distract people. So if she would do that, I would appreciate it.
Go ahead, Ms. Lawson.
Resolution number 669, a resolution of the Mesquite City Council for the preservation, conservation, and utilization of Gold Butte. Whereas the Gold Butte complex of area of critical environmental concern is recognized for critical tortoise habitat, sensitive species, scenic and cultural resources, including historic mining, pioneer activities, prehistoric habitation, and rock art. And whereas the Gold Butte complex has become a destination for numerous recreation opportunities, including camping, hiking, hunting, motorized recreation, and sightseeing. And whereas having a legislative designation of a national conservation area will better ensure the protection, conservation, and utilization of this complex of critical environmental concern. And whereas Gold Butte draws visitors from across the country and provides important economic benefits to nearby communities such as Mesquite, and whereas the National Landscape Conservation System will provide opportunity for interpretation, education, and community outreach, and whereas working with local jurisdictions to develop an effective management plan would permanently protect the natural and cultural resources within the Gold Butte area. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the City Council of Mesquite, Nevada supports the designation of Gold Butte Complex as a national conservation area with the following inclusions. Number 1, that a permanent standing committee be created by an act of Congress and appointed by the respective jurisdictions to ensure public involvement in the development and implementation of an effective and acceptable management plan for this NCA, and that the permanent steering committee be comprised of the following: 2 citizens appointed by each of the 4 neighboring jurisdictions, including Mesquite City Council or an appointee, Bunkerville Advisory Town Board, Moapa Valley Town Board, and Moapa Town Advisory Board, a Clark County Commissioner or an appointed citizen, a City Council member or appointed citizen from the Clark County jurisdictions of Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, Henderson, and Boulder City, a representative from Partners in Conservation, a representative from Friends of Gold Butte, or a local preservation/wilderness advocate group, a representative from the Moapa tribes of Paiutes, 1 representative living in Clark County, each from the motorized recreational community and non-motorized recreation community, and a historical organization or museum. Number 2, that the standing committee shall be immediately tasked with duties including but not limited to 1, assisting with the drafting of legislative language for the NCA, 2, reviewing and recommending any and all future designations of wilderness within Gold Butte Complex, including the area of the Virgin Mountain Instant Study Area, and 3, reviewing and making recommendations on previously closed roads and on issues related to access to sites as may be applicable to the Americans with Disability Act. Number 3, that this NCA be managed to protect and enhance these values, 1, of multiple use, 2, of heritage and history of the Virgin Valley and Moapa Valley and the traditional uses of Gold Butte, and 3, of historical, cultural, and natural resources. Number 4, that this NCA incorporates in its entirety the route destinations EA number NV052-2006-0433 as identified in the attached map. And number 5, ensure that site type right-of-ways for water resource development are not excluded or precluded without input by the Virgin Valley Water District. Passed, adopted, and approved by the City Council of the City of Mesquite, Nevada on this 11th day of May 2010.
Now I ask you, does that sound that bad to you? It sounds like what we've asked for is what everybody, I'm talking now, thank you. That's what everybody's been asking for, and that's exactly what we put in there. And one of the things that concerns me is that, we can throw this out like we've thrown a lot of other things out recently that's taken us backwards big time economically in this community. We can do that, no problem, because we probably have the votes here tonight to do that. But you know, somebody made the comment, well, we'll see come election time. Well, maybe we will see come election time. I don't know. But you know what? I think that it will benefit this community. There's no doubt about it will benefit this community. And you know, trying to scare people into everything is not the way to pull people together. And that's what we're doing. You know, you got Bunkerville that wants one thing. Well, that's fine. I can understand that. They have a different lifestyle. You got another. Moapa's different. We're all different. But you know what? If we don't pull together, they'll do it for us. And that's the reason we wrote it that way. And if you look at the original document we had, this is much more inclusive in what we were asking for to happen to make sure that everybody's interests were ensured. So let's just say we take this away now. Las Vegas has one. North Las Vegas has one. Boulder City has one. Almost every chamber of commerce in Clark County has approval and recommends this happening. And they all have different ideas, and we did not follow. You know, we had some pressure from us from Clark County to follow exactly what they did, so we all had a unified voice. But we felt that what they had given us and what they were doing lacked a lot of the assurances that we needed. So we take it away now, and now we got nothing, and maybe they'll just decide to go with what Clark County had or what somebody else had, you know. Why should we worry about it? Because the people next door don't care enough to have a resolution. So, you know, we can shoot ourselves in the foot on this, or we can be intelligent. If you can pick it apart and tell me there's something wrong with what's there, and, you know, I see we have one person in the back that thinks they can. I'm sure that anybody can come up with something, but it just goes back to the same thing. You know, somebody said, we used to get along, Bunkerville and Mesquite. Yeah, I spent 5 years on this council talking to people about trying to get along. And you know what? I've made almost zero on that. It hasn't done much good, but I feel it in my heart. I think it's important. And I think it's time we put a stop to this, let's try to turn the clock back on everything, because we are going backwards, guys. We're going backwards. So do as you will, but you know, I think emails spoke pretty loud and clear about how people in this community felt. It's easy to bring your relatives in, a few people in, and have them come up and, you know, try to throw a monkey wrench in it, but the numbers don't lie. Thank you.
Councilman Littman.
Thank you, Mayor. Last time I made some comments about an important issue, I got booed. We'll see if we can avoid it this time. Thank you. But I didn't mind it. Looking at resolutions, and before I get into what I want to really say, I want to tell everybody that I do support a national conservation area. Okay? I'm not 100% sure if Resolution 669 answers all my questions. However, I'm not opposed to this resolution. But I think maybe we need to look past resolutions a little bit. So I thought I'd educate myself about what a resolution is, so that, and then perhaps some of you that are not fully aware of what in the world we're talking about up here, and sometimes nod yes, and I see sometimes nodding no, we can clarify a little bit, or clarify a little bit better. So I looked up what a resolution is as it pertains to what we do here. And this comes from a legal definition. As a spontaneous expression of opinion, a resolution is intended to be timely and to have a temporary effect. Typical resolutions are used when passage of a law is either unnecessary or unfeasible. In this case, we know it's unfeasible because we're not making any laws that will ever affect Gold Butte. They're going to be made on another level. Unless we just leave things alone, and sooner or later they'll still be made on another level. The resolution, quote, merely asserts an opinion that lawmakers want to emphasize. That's us. However, we come and we go, as well as the people out in the community do. Further, it says, when resolutions are mere expressions of opinion, they differ fundamentally from laws. In essence, laws are intended to be permanently direct and control matters applying to persons or issues in general. Moreover, they are enforceable. We know that a resolution is not enforceable. They are neither intended to be permanent nor to be enforceable. This is a quote. But they do, it says, and are not necessarily not indicative of the ideas and values of elected representatives, and as such, commonly mirror the outlook of voters. So I read as much as I could about Gold Butte. I spent hours pulling down articles from every group I could think of that wrote something about Gold Butte, and then everything I could find about national conservation areas, including several that are up before Congress or about to become up before Congress now. And I think what we've done is somewhat clouded the issue because we're getting a lot of different opinions. You get a lot of pressure. I get emails constantly now, like everybody else on this, and phone calls, letters, etc. Most of them read exactly the same, so we know they're carbon copies with a signature on them. That's fine. Trying to sway us one way or another. Most of them are in favor of. I have to say that probably, as Councilman Gustavson said, probably about 90% in favor, probably about 10% that I received that are not in favor. But I think we need to take this issue a little further. First of all, remove the studies from this issue altogether. I've worked in the field of reviewing studies and teaching statistics. These numbers can be manipulated any which way you feel like it if you know how to do it, and you get the answer you want. We need to remove the emotions from this issue because that's a serious thing. We need to remove the rumors. Some of the emails I've got are unbelievable as to what the rumors are as to what will occur if this designation takes place or if it doesn't take place. We need to remove the paid consultants from this program. We need to remove the special interest groups. Gold Butte has existed, according to the geologists, well in excess of 1 billion with a B years. It isn't going anyplace for the time being. So what I'm going to propose, and it might be very contrary to what the rest of my fellow council members will think of as a feasible solution, and that's to take this issue, not dump this resolution, leave it alone just the way it sits right now, but to go past the resolution altogether and to create either one or a series of advisory ballot questions that we can put out to the people with all the facts on both sides, pros and the cons of these issues, minus the emotions, minus the consultants that get paid to do something and push a particular agenda, and leave it up to the voters to come back with an answer for us. We're supposed to be here to carry out the will of the people, and I don't see this happening all the time when you've got just 5 people representing an unknown number. And we have 6,000 registered voters in Mesquite. And I think if they feel that this is a serious enough issue, we'll see a huge turnout in an election. This happened before, and the results were contrary to what most of the council members thought would occur. And doing the right thing as a city council, we opted to go with what the people selected. And I think that's what we should do in a case like this. Because we've got to consider everybody in this situation. We've got, what, about 200 people in the room here, 180 people in the room. And this is not representative of all of Mesquite. We need to get out to all the people in Mesquite. But in the meantime, I think the resolution as it stands is fine. In the final run, we have to be, I think, very realistic. And the answers to this aren't going to come from us. It's going to come from the federal government, whether we like it or we don't like it. Do I like it? No. Will I have to live with it? Probably. Thank you.
Not a bad idea.
Councilman Ramsey?
I appreciate Councilman Littman's definition. I agree that this is something that is a resolution, is not a mandate, it's simply a position. And council has changed, the citizens have changed. Council has an obligation to occasionally revisit past decisions. Public attitudes change, issues evolve. We've done this most recently where I think Councilman Gustavson was referring to. Although he disagreed, we changed the shared use path at the request of the affected citizens. As an example of just the most recent, it's happened before and it's happened on other councils, and it'll happen again. Somebody will change what we've done today. But I do believe that Mesquite needs a clear voice in this thing, not an environmental voice. It seems to be the loudest right now. We cannot have outside groups advocating on behalf of the city, whoever they are. The city needs to speak with a clear voice and be part of the process and not a bystander. The existing resolution 669, it has some specific inclusions in support of the designation of an NCA. And although I'm not opposed fundamentally to an NCA, I think this resolution, everybody's been talking about it and says it's okay. I don't think it's okay. I think it can use some tweaking, fixing, bolstering. There's a formation of a standing committee that we talked about. I love the committee. It's a great selection of representatives. When's that going to happen? I mean, on the one hand, looking at the resolution here, create a standing committee created by an act of Congress. You got to be kidding me. An act of Congress? They haven't passed anything in so it won't get created, although I think it'd be a good thing to do, and shall be immediately tasked with duties including but not limited to assisting in the drafting of legislative language for the NCA. It's not been committed. We're not assisting in the drafting of this NCA at all, nor is anybody that's supposed to be on this committee. So I don't understand what this is saying. And then it's also saying, tasked with the duties of including but not limited to, assisting with the drafting of legislative language for the NCA, reviewing and recommending any and all future designations of wilderness, which I don't want to see any wilderness up there, make that really clear, within the Gold Butte complex, reviewing and making recommendations on previously closed roads and on issues related to sites with the ADA. I'm all for the committee as proposed. We should add in that, if we're going to tweak it, no more closed roads and revisit the ones that have already been closed. Because they have, guys. They've closed some roads. The NCA can have some very restrictive access. Not saying they will, but they can. All of those who have commented all of those who actually have used Gold Butte didn't get there by walking. I guarantee it. That's a big area. You got there by some motorized vehicle. So when they start shutting roads down, if it's not today, it might be tomorrow, it might be 10 years from now, how are you gonna get there? You can walk hundreds of miles in this heat and nobody's gonna do it. I have a sample of 4 of 16 that I randomly picked, and some are restricted, some are very loose. It's 25% of the 16 in the 10 western states. I picked 4. Sanford Morenci Trail, Gila Valley, Arizona. Recreational trail for non-motorized vehicles, recreation permit required. McGinnis Canyons, 123,000 acres in Utah and Colorado. Uses are hiking, biking, floating, off-highway vehicles, horses, hunting, backpack, camping, and grazing. Not restricted. Las Ciénegas, Arizona, 45,000 acres. Viewing, bird watching, primitive camping at designated areas, hiking, mountain biking, no OHVs, no off-highway vehicles, none. Hunting, photography. San Pedro, riparian NCA in Cochise County, Arizona, 57,000 acres. It's the same as the Las Ciénegas, but even more restrictive, and the permitted backcountry camping is available in designated areas only. No OHVs, and permits and fees are required. So not all NCAs are just this big, beautiful thing that you can walk in and it's going to be the same. They're not the same. We need to have input. We should enhance this resolution at a minimum. The road plan needs to work for us. Named to include multiple use or similar to ensure that the desire for limited restrictions within the NCA is clear. No new wilderness designations. Limited geographical designation. How big is this thing? I've heard 30,000 acres, 25,000, 35, 120,000, 200,000. Pick a number. Pick it. Point is, what are we talking about? We don't even know. So we have a resolution supporting something that nobody know. And that's not in our resolution. That all traditional and current lawful recreation opportunities be implemented and allowed to ensure and secure economic interest in the neighboring jurisdictions, no permits and fees. I'd like to see a boat launch down there by Whitney, down in Lake Mead. That talk about economic development. Water usage and availability in this area speaks to the Virgin Valley Water District. I see some things that can be improved and tweaked on this deal. That's all.
Councilman Hafen. First of all, I appreciate the respect and the public input. I didn't put this on here to invite everybody. If we're going to do it right, we have to have everyone's input. I'm going to try to be respectful. I think it's only fair that we clear up a few things. Ron Dodd and I's names have been mentioned with a resolution that we're talking about today. And Carl's talked about last year and not maybe listened to the tape correctly. Now, in all fairness to both Susan Holcheck and Carl Gustavson and Sherry Lawson, we can take the time to listen to this so that there's no formulated opinions that anybody was picking on anybody, so we can clear the record if we need to do that, if that's what we need to do. I want to make it clear. If we want to just take a few minutes and listen to it, because I still think Carl feels like that the record isn't correct. I was at the meeting.
I don't have a problem.
You want to listen to it?
No.
If you feel,
It's not that big a deal.
okay.
Councilman, I'm going to ask.
There has been reference to it. The other reference was to the fact that I supported this resolution today. And you are 110% correct. And here's why. I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to, just so you understand the process and how it went, I want to give you a little history. You go back to the first resolution, and I'm taking this from the minutes. 557, Mayor Holchek read short title, resolution number 649. Went through it. She said she had the pleasure of working with Nancy Hall on the resolution. She said it was very important that this is an area that needs preservation. And for the record, I agree 100%. We need to take care of Gold Butte. This resolution is basically the foundation to bring people to the table to develop an effective management plan for Gold Butte. She went on. At 5:58, 1 minute later, this was all done. And I'm not blaming anybody. I'm saying we were all asleep. Everybody here was asleep if there was no participation. Okay? There was no participation. Mr. Dodd and I found out about this and started having some concerns about the things that were in here and like to bring it to the mill, if you will. We got involved, and as a result, this resolution exists with some of the recommendations that are here. There was more input. I want more input. That's all it's about. And I have no problem with Mr. Littman's comment about letting the people decide. I understand that. This is a Mesquite issue. I was reminded of that at Tech Review. I am fully aware of that. And I do make the decisions for the citizens of Mesquite and for the betterment of Mesquite. And if anyone wants to ever sit down and call me, I only had one that was on the side that they think I'm opposite of or whatever, call me. And we had a great discussion. I asked him some questions. He asked me a lot of questions. I was respectful. He's respectful. I'll be respectful. But I think George said some things that need to be said. We have one shot to let the federal government know where we stand. And that's all this is about. Let's do it right.
Councilman Gus Davison.
Thank you, Mayor. I like to remind everybody when they talk about participation, how much participation there really has been. We've had the national director from Washington, D.C., who runs the BLM, has been out here on several field trips. He's taken large groups of people out to the area and talked about it and had discussions with I don't know whether Craig and Mr. Dodd was there or not, but I believe they were. We've had meeting after meeting after meeting. They've had meetings here. We had a meeting just a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago, over at the senior center. We had some participation. They had all the maps out there. They were begging for information of what needed to be done and where it needed to be done. This has been going on. This is a process that's been going on for 2 and 3 and 4 years. So when people say there hasn't been any participation, I won't say it gets me angry, but it makes me just shake my head and say, well, you know, what hole were you hiding in? Because I saw you standing right in the middle of that participation. So I'm not talking about you, Craig, right now. I know you get angry. I don't want you to get angry. But nonetheless, there has been a lot of participation. It happened. They've had meetings down in Wappa. They've had meetings over in Bunkerville. They've met with everybody there is to meet with. And I think they're trying to do what they have to do, and we're trying to make it difficult for them. Every time they think that they're on the right track and this is what the people from the area want, a couple people show up at one of the meetings and they want to open this road, that road, and whatever. Yeah, you know, if you look at it, I think there's maybe 2 critical roads that they've closed that create some walking. And one of them is definitely a bad safety issue. It's down a hill like that. And you can't walk down that, and you can't take a vehicle down there. So they built a nice parking lot there. So there's some inconvenience. And in another area where Little Finland area, which is really popular with photographers, probably one of the best photography sites in America. It's all these beautiful pictures you see from Gold Butte. About 90% of them come from that one area. I have about 2,000 of them on my computer, so if you haven't seen them, come on over. And nonetheless, those roads can be tweaked, one or two roads. But when we start talking about we want a cattle grazing range out there, all that is throwing in a bunch of fodder to make sure nothing can ever happen. The BLM came in, they purchased all of the cattle rights. They didn't force anybody to sell anything. They came to them and said, we would like to purchase your grazing rights. And because the numbers were pretty small on how many they could graze, for example, Mr. Bundy here, he was, back then, he was allowed 150 cows. And now, you know, he has 750, 800, nobody knows. They haven't counted ones in Arizona. So that's a problem. And that's not, they're not going to tolerate grazing in there because there's no legal grazing that can take place there. Nobody has a permit. He hasn't had a permit since 1996. So, you know, years and years of spending our tax money. We're worried about our tax money. Here's years and years of $2 a head went to the taxpayers. I'm just about through.
I'm just going to bring up a point, on a point of order, that we really have no control over grazing rights, nor or Clive.
It's an example of what's been happening, though, Mayor, because this is exactly what's happening. So the minute you start throwing more things in, I think the resolution stands by itself. You know, it's just a resolution, and I think that we had a very good definition from the dictionary what it is, and that's what it is. It's just, this is the guidelines that we'd like to see.
Councilman Haven.
Is it on? Just one last thought. I just would like to, we have tried. Mayor and I went to Nancy and the groups involved. I even asked Nancy to pick who she would like on the committee. We had a few meetings. We couldn't get anywhere because we couldn't agree, number one, on wilderness. Right now, there is 2 areas designated wilderness, Lime Canyon and Jumbo Springs. I think it's about 30,000 acres, okay? I think that was done by legislation. So there's 30,000. There has to be some clarity on some of these issues, and I think that's what this whole discussion was about.
Clear as mud. Add some more water. I'm going to take just a couple of minutes here and share my opinion. For the record, I think at this point, for Mesquite, and I don't believe any of the council wants to do that, to back out of this discussion will leave us in a position where we have nothing to negotiate. And I don't believe that is good for the citizens of Mesquite. I don't think that will get us anywhere. I've read about NCAs, I've talked to all of our federal delegates. They've all stated the same thing. They will make the attempt to accommodate multiple use on Gold Butte. Multiple use means ATVs, it means hiking, it means wilderness, it means all of those things and all the historical uses that have been out there. We do have some challenges when it comes to wilderness out there. I think the original 669 addresses reviewing and recommending any and all future designations of wilderness within Gold Butte. And that, of course, is done by the committee. I don't believe that committee has been formed. I don't know if Congress has ever moved, and I do have similar concerns as Mr. Rapson does on Congress moving forward. I hope they will. I also have some big concerns about how does this all get paid for? I've watched real interesting little website out there called the usdebtclock.org. I'll tell you what, $16 trillion worth of debt, $118 trillion in unfunded liabilities. The BLM budget was cut by 6% for 2012. We have been given mandated cuts now across the boards for all departments that will take place in 2013 till about 2021. That's because the super committee wasn't all that super. It's been stated that we need to do this to protect Gold Butte. I can't agree more. It does need to be protected. The problem that I see is how do we get there? We can say an NCA will add to the protection. Really, in talking to the BLM, an NCA will move us up on our priority list for more possibly more money. It doesn't guarantee it, but we do get put on a priority list. It won't guarantee protection, folks. If we want to protect this, we're going to have to do it with or without an NCA designation. That's going to require volunteers and eyes out there and going after the people that do it. I'm of the Mayor Goodman opinion when it comes to people that deface things. You know, thumbs should be removed. I have a lot of questions about this. Now, we've heard about the study done by USU. We've heard of other studies. They pretty much all say what they're going to say. Gold Butte is a unique area. Will it be a massive economic draw for the city of Mesquite or Bunkerville or Moapa? I don't know. I can't answer that question. I don't think there's anybody here that can honestly answer that question with empirical data. It doesn't exist. Are there things we can do to improve and enhance that economic development through multiple use? You bet there are. Mr. Rapson mentioned a boat ramp. There are 4 million people that boat every single year on Lake Mead. We have the ability to get access to that lake through Gold Butte without damaging anything out there. It would require some money, and it would require park services to actually step up and offer a solution. But I can guarantee you that we would get a lot more boat traffic than we get right now because we would have that access. I think that's important to add to this resolution as we look through it. It's stated Gold Butte has become a destination for numerous recreation opportunities, including camping, hiking, hunting, motorized recreation, and sightseeing. What's missing is the fact that a number of years ago, I used to fish out there about every weekend. Now we've lost a lot of water, and I know that's a fact. However, there are locations that can be reached currently on the Gold Butte side that we can reach the lake on, and we can put in temporary ramps. I would at least like to see that amendment put in. I'm kind of a little confused a little bit about the wilderness designation, reviewing and recommending any and all future designations of wilderness within Gold Butte Complex. If that's the committee's agreed duty, then we can only start where it's at, which is Lion Canyon and Jumbo Springs are the 2 designated areas for wilderness. And that's where it should start. That's where negotiations begin. It may end there. I don't know. I'm not part of the group. We certainly don't have that committee set forward. But I would like to see some direction from this council to see whether or not we can get that committee moving and get some legislation that would create that committee. Because I'm of the opinion that if we walk away from the table, we're not going to get anything out of this deal. We're not going to get the things that all of us seem to want. Somebody else is going to dictate what happens there. I want Bunkerville. It's been stated that we're telling Bunkerville what to do and Mawaba what to do. I want to go on record right now that I'm not telling Bunkerville what to do. I have a lot of friends in Bunkerville. I have some friends in Mawaba. They have a decision that they need to make. But as for Mesquite, and that's all that I represent, I think it's important that we stay at the table, that we continue to work towards agreements. And I met with Councilman Hafen and a number of them, and I'll tell you what, it's no different. You have one or two sides that dug their feet in and they don't want to move on certain issues, and that's their choice, that's their opinion. But we need to move forward, and we need to do some things. I don't disagree with Councilman Littman. I think a vote of the people would be interesting. I don't know if it would disprove anything that we've seen on emails. I know I got a number from different areas in Henderson and Las Vegas and San Francisco and across the boards, and that's fine. It is the public's land, whether they live here or live in San Francisco. I would personally like to see us continue, answer some questions that we've got. Councilman Hafen has brought forward some interesting ideas. I think Councilman Gus Davison has some good ideas as well. I'm glad that he had that resolution read so that we all understand what it says. Councilman, I leave it to you folks to come up with a motion or not a motion, or whatever you want to do. Councilman Hafen.
Mayor, there are a lot of questions to be answered.
My questions, or?
There are a lot of questions to be answered. And we could sit here till the cows get off the range if you want.
We're done.
I know, that's why I'm saying there are issues here that we, as citizens of Mesquite, need resolved. And until there's some motivation from both sides to come to the table, we're just going to sit there, we're going to stonewall each other, we're going to go back and forth. So I'd like to level the playing field and make sure people come to the table. I'd like to suspend this resolution and allow individuals to come forward with input. We'll bring this back when we can get some consensus and move forward. And I would like to make that as my motion.
Ms. Hunt?
To clarify that, do you mean rescind it and start over? Because it's already been voted in. I don't know about suspending it. It'd be more, probably rescind it and then bring forth a new one.
If it's suspended, it sets there. It gives people the opportunity to come in with input. When we bring the recommendations back, we can implement those into that or do a new resolution.
Well, it's already been voted in, so perhaps either rescind it or perhaps maybe talk about bringing back this for discussion again and at a date certain.
Well, then I move to rescind it and bring it back in 120 days from today.
No, he can. Hold for 1 second, Councilman. I'm going to get some clarification. Ms. Hunt, we can't suspend, but we can rescind. Is that correct?
You can vote to rescind it and bring back a new one, or you can vote to just leave this one in place that's here now and bring it back for discussion and amendment in 120 days, which is probably what I would recommend, is to just leave it and bring it back to amend or alter in 120 days after a date certain.
I have a, Councilman Hafen, I'll let you take a shot at another motion.
I made a motion, I thought it was clear.
Okay, point of order, Councilman Gustavus.
Before we do that, I would like to see some further discussion. If you're gonna do that, I would suggest that the motion contains that we go ahead at this point in time, contact BLM and start the process, so that we aren't just changing everything and we're not really doing anything.
BLM is going to be here on the 8th, if I'm not mistaken. They have a presentation. That process has already been started.
So, just for my clarification, you are voting to rescind and bring back, your motion is, I'm sorry, not voting. Your motion is to rescind Resolution 669 and then bring this back, date certain, 120 days from now.
The next appropriate council meeting within
120 days.
That's not what the attorney said. If you rescind it one more time, you're doing away with it. So you're going to do away with this.
That is.
I thought we were going to keep this until you.
The motion that Councilman Hafen has made is to rescind and bring back at a date certain. What we need now is a second, or die for lack of a second. Councilman Rapson.
If I may, is it appropriate for further discussion?
At this point, we really need to have a second or let it die for lack of second, then we can start the discussion all over again.
Okay, well then let me clarify the motion and Councilman Gustavuson's comment. I agree with that. I think there needs to be some impetus to begin discussions at this point and to continue discussions during this 120-day period. Yeah, somewhere in that motion.
Okay, I still don't understand. Is that a second to Councilman Hafen's motion? Or are we changing again? I really don't know.
I think my point was that I will second the motion, but I would like to see the language that we will open discussion immediately and continue through the 120-day process.
Point of clarification, so what you're saying is that you want to see this one go away now. Yeah. So we don't have anything in force.
Correct.
Why would we want to just go ahead and work through it?
Councilman, you're not on microphone, please. Council, hold for one moment. Point of order.
There's a motion on the table, so it needs to be decided.
Right. We can discuss the motion at this point. So let's discuss the motion if we wish to now. Councilman Gustavus, do you have any more discussion on that motion?
Yes, it just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I can see what Councilman Hafen would like to do, and that is he would like to try to work through it and make some changes on it. But by taking the motion totally out, what we're doing is we're sending a message out worldwide that the Mesquite has now dropped their support for Goldbutte. And that will be the case until we get another motion or we get another, when it comes back. I mean, why would we do that? It doesn't make sense, but whatever.
Councilman Hafen, do you have some discussion on the motion?
Can I clarify the comment?
Sure.
This will allow us to get the input we need. We're still in support. If somebody needs to call and get clarification, they can call Mayor Weir, and he can assure them we're still in support of protecting Goldbutte. We're going to implement some things in a resolution and bring it back. And that's the reason for the motion.
I'm going to ask for some clarification at that point. Ms. Hunt, if we rescind this resolution, we have no position on Goldbutte. Is that correct?
That's correct, if we repeal it.
If it is rescinded, there is no position.
It's actually called repeal, but if
Right.
it's
Repeal.
taking it, there is no position until the new one comes back. That's why if we left this one in place and brought it back in 120 days to amend and alter, that's a possibility too. I'm just throwing it out.
Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Is there a second?
I have... The motion is to rescind Resolution 669, bring back at a date certain within the next 120 days to discuss. There is a tie vote, and I do get to vote. Now I'm going to explain why I voted that way. I can't go forward without direction. If somebody calls and says, are you for or against, we have to say no. It's not my opinion that we are against an NCA designation. I don't think that's available to anybody here. No one here has said that they're against the NCA. No one. Okay? I think we can still bring people to the table. We can bring this back. We can amend it. We can do whatever is necessary to put the wording in here so that we further this down the road. I understand, but we need to be at the table. If we say we're not at the table for the next 120 days, there's no question that we really can't do anything. We can't make a comment. We can't go forward. So go ahead, Mr. Rapson.
Having said that, and seeing the direction that the council would like to go, I would like to make a motion that essentially says we keep the existing Resolution 669 in place. We revisit in time certain within 120 days nearest council meeting thereof. And we have input and suggestions and a draft of a new resolution that I think there were valid comments from a lot of people. In fact, every councilman here had valid comments to include some redrafted language that makes it very, very clear to everybody what our position is and what it is we want as a city. It's a long motion.
Are your fingers hurting? All right, we have a motion. Call for a second. Motion dies for lack of a second. Is that correct? Okay, so we're back at square one. I guess we can ask if there's a motion that, I don't know where we go from here other than we're done. Unless, go ahead, Ms. Hunt.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Unless there's another motion, what's here stands. The resolution as it is stands.
Thank you. Any further motions from council? Seeing none, the resolution stands.